In this video, it's the final car of 3 I have driven here as part of the drivedadscar.com experience here at the Great British Car Journey Museum. I've already driven the Mini and the Austin 7 over there, and you can see a separate video on how I got here in my little Invacar three-wheeler over there. But I thought I'd save this mighty beauty for last. This is a slightly more expensive car, as you can well imagine, on the experience. This is in the luxury class, so you have to pay a bit more for that experience, but I think it's probably worth it because even driven gently, these are magnificent cars. This is a 1989 Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. The Silver Spirit followed on from the Silver Shadow, which was launched in 1966. This is very much an evolution of that platform. We've got the same 6.75 litre V8 overhead valve engine that Rolls-Royce developed when they finally felt the end was in sight for their inlet over exhaust 6-cylinder engine. The structure is a huge, enormous monocoque, one of the largest produced in the UK. The suspension, it's coil spring, but at the rear we've got license from Citroën, hydro pneumatic spheres to do the self-leveling. So there's coils to keep it so it's always level, it doesn't sink like a hydro pneumatic Citroën, but they're there to self-level, so you put a load of weight in the boot, it'll always sit at the same level. Those same Citroën hydraulics power the braking system, so very, very fierce braking. Only Rolls-Royce had 2 accumulator spheres and a backup conventional master cylinder just in case both of those somehow fail. So you should always be able to stop. And speaking personally, we've also got a pantograph wiper moment. We have 2 arms on this side. We'll get into all that excitement later. This one has an optional vinyl roof, which I think looks quite smart. It's in a sort of light cream colour. Very imposing cars. I'm not sure you could describe it as a beautiful car. Always a bit fussy in some regards, especially around the headlamps. Perhaps the Bentley models with their circular lamps looked a bit better. Not all Bentleys. There was a design tweak later on. In fact, it was in this shape of Rolls-Royce, the Silver Spirit, that Bentley really managed to re-establish their name. When you look at the production totals of the Silver Shadow against the Bentley T-Series, I think 1 in 9 was a Rolls-Royce or something ridiculous like that. Whereas when these started being developed, they developed the Bentley Turbo versions, starting with the Mulsanne Turbo and then the Turbo R, and gave even the regular Bentley models a slightly more sporting overtones. And that revival of Bentley got to such a stage that we have the Bentley company that exists today, entirely separate of Rolls-Royce. So an interesting bit of history for sure. These cars are all about solid engineering. The doors must weigh an absolute ton. And look at the hinges. Look at the mechanism down there to stop the door closing on you unexpectedly. Everything is just so massively over-engineered. Beautiful little plaque here, just marvellous. Foot-operated handbrake. I suppose that makes it a foot-operated parking brake. One supposes the double R on the brake pedal here, but I need to pull this big lever to open the bonnet so we can inspect the magnificent 6.75 litre V8 engine. It doesn't look very 1980s, it looks very 1960s. But we've now got fuel injection. Earlier models had a carburetor, so the fuel consumption was even more absolutely horrific. If we go around the other side, we have our hydraulic system here. There are various engine-driven pumps, air conditioning pumps, separate power steering pump. There's a fair few ancillaries and a massive cooling fan to keep this engine in check. And look at the springs that keep this bonnet from falling on my head. Not enormously joyous to work on, but thankfully there is a thriving specialist scene for these cars. Right, let's have a proper look inside and clamber aboard, and it's just as magnificent as you'd expect, really. I haven't shut my door properly. The seals are so good, you actually have to pull the doors quite hard. 66,000 miles. Look at the quality of the wood, the acres of leather absolutely everywhere. Yeah, supremely comfortable place to sit, quite high up. Look at the seat base compared to the floor. So I think that's because that's what customers liked at Rolls-Royce. You look at the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud, which still had a separate chassis. You sat very up and formal. so they couldn't go too far away from that with the Silver Shadow and subsequent Silver Spirit. But yeah, look at the controls. Everything is so old-fashioned, really. The air conditioner has got low, auto and high modes. You can adjust the temperature here, recirculate. Hazard lights here. There is our little hazard warning light. Look, even lines around the indicators there. That's lovely. Slightly random scattergun approach to the fittings. We've got wipers down here, slightly hidden by the key. That's almost like my Aunt Morris Oxford, I seem to remember. The refuel, I guess that's the flap for that. You can check the oil level here. Various lights to warn you of various things. Don't seem to want to warn us of anything at the moment. Oh, the anti-lock system is struggling apparently, and we've got the headlight switch there as well. Just lovely. This is the column gear selector. And I don't think, oh no, it will let me move it even when it's in the engine off. It's designed to be fingertip light in operation, but it's very easy to just go quickly down to drive here. I'm not sure what I is, to be honest, but L would definitely be your low position. And you got the cruise control controls on here as well. Fog lamps down here. I think we should wash the windscreen. I've forgotten, how do you wash the windscreen? Haha, the column stalk. You push the column stalk in to wash the windscreen. I would expect the wipers to come on automatically, but they don't. Look at that pantograph wiper action. That's just splendid. The blades are a little tired apparently, but that's what it's all about. And if you turn them off, they will park at the base of the windscreen. Here's a triangle of doom though, I note. Oh no! Oh no, that doesn't really make up for the pantograph wiper action, I don't think. Oh dear, that's heartbreaking. I go on about these things far too much. We've got window switches down here. Quarter lights actually fitted, just because that was a bit more classy. Yeah, it's just, the smell in here is just magnificent. Let's go have a sit in the back. Now, I was always fascinated by the fact the central lock blipper is there, just to show you it's open. You can't really reach it from the driver's seat. That wasn't the point. But if we clamber aboard, oh yes, this feels very fine indeed. Loads of space. Look at the amount of leg room I've got, just enormous. And headroom is a little tighter, but it's okay. The rear seat seems a bit lower than the front. We've got extra footrests here. If you feel the need, you can put those down there to rest your feet on, should the floor be unsuitable for your shoes. So that's very lovely. Center armrest, an enormously chunky one with I'm not even sure what that is. That looks a bit homegrown. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe I should have left that well alone. But yeah, you can hear the leather creaking. There is so much of it. I forget how many cows they said went into the interior of one of these, but it is fair to say this is not vegan friendly. But yeah, very comfortable. You could sit here and be chauffeured around all day long. Now, I would love to give you some more facts at this point, like power output, but Rolls-Royce would never disclose it. They always just said it was merely adequate, which is a bit of a cop-out, isn't it, really? But nonetheless, I'm going to apply my seatbelt, even though we're driving on private ground. The seatbelt buckle looks like it's straight out of an Austin Maestro, by the way, which is a little peculiar. And start the engine. Oh yeah, all the warning lights did come on briefly. They've all gone out again, so I think we're all right. So we can just about hear that 6.75 litre V8. I just flick that down to drive. Handbrake isn't applied, or parking brake rather, and we're away. The steering is very, very light. It was not developed with handling in mind. These later ones do tend to ride and handle a bit better than the earlier ones. The earlier ones were so soft and so wallowy that bends frankly became a bit terrifying. But I think it just changed gear. I forget which gearbox these have got, whether they're a 3 or a 4 speed. It did change during the production run. There were actually quite a lot of changes to the Silver Spirit during its somewhat lengthy production run. It began in 1980 and it ran all the way until 1998. It's so dark, I'm going to apply my headlights so the peasants can see me coming. Yeah, it doesn't handle like a Mini, I think it's fair to say, but it doesn't ride like a Mini either. It does have a certain amount of float and elegance, which is somewhat lacking in the Mini, I would say. Yeah, it just wafts. I've no idea what gear it's in. I don't really care what gear it's in. I actually really like these cars. I've driven quite a few of them. I edited the very first issue of Rolls-Royce and Bentley Driver magazine, and I grew to like these cars a great deal. I'm not sure I could really cope with the running costs, but they are lovely. All we can hear really is a gentle wooffle of engine and the creak of the leather. We're going to take the slalom. It may be unpleasant. Oh, oh! Requires quite a few turns actually. I mean, power steering gives you the option to make the steering more direct, but I guess the sneeze factor was important to Rolls-Royce. They didn't want people getting wobbly all over the place. I mean, you can put quite a lot into the steering wheel and nothing at all happens. So that's quite good. But should we give her the beans? Oh, she does growl very pleasantly and gets underway well, I would say. Yeah, it's just serene. It feels special, and of course it had to feel special. It was a Rolls-Royce. These cars cost a great deal of money, and this one drives very nicely, it must be said. There are an awful lot of very tired Rolls-Royces out there that have seen too much wedding duty and not enough specialist attention. This one feels very nice. The brake pedal is very Citroen-esque, perhaps slightly dulled down from the sharp brakes of say a Citroen GS or a CX, a bit more like a BX. Feels like it's got a little fake flex in it that isn't really there because it's hydraulics. So if you've got about 2,000 pounds of pressure, and as you press the brake pedal you're opening up a valve. It's rather like air brakes, so the pressure's already there. You're not creating it, you're opening a tap, which means the brakes can be yeah, fierce. They are very good indeed. The real surprise in these cars is the Bentley versions, especially later on, because they handle in a way you just don't expect this much car to handle, and they have remarkable amounts of power. So huge torque with that 6.75 litre V8, blown of course with a turbocharger on some of the Bentley models. And yeah, they move and behave in ways that belie their enormous size. This feels like I'm piloting an enormous car, because I am, but the Bentleys sort of shrink around you. They are quite magnificent. So although Hubnut is all about celebrating the average, I think it's worth stepping out every now and then into something a bit more fancy, because you know they are lovely cars, and I would actually quite like one. It gains pace in such a relaxing manner. It's just splendid. But we are driving back and forth a bit. You actually get to drive around more of the industrial estate here if you actually do one of these dad's car drives. But the difficulty today is we're here on a weekday filming, and they are actually operating, and there's forklifts everywhere, so we're staying out of that area and just cruising around the grounds of the museum. But yeah, this feels very special, and I think it's worth paying that little bit extra, because how many of us, unless you've edited a Rolls-Royce magazine, can say you've driven a Rolls-Royce? You don't often get the opportunity, and I think everyone needs to, because these are very special, very lovely cars. Well, there we go. That definitely isn't a Hubnut experience, wafting around site in this marvellous Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. These luxury cars do cost a bit more. It's £70 if you head to drivedadscar.com, but you could save 40% if you join the Great British Car Club, which the museum is operating, which gives you a year's access to the museum, lots of other benefits, so do go and check that out. But yeah, that's just splendid. I'm never disappointed by a Rolls-Royce. It's not about handling, it's not about economy, it's just about sheer luxury, pure waft. Splendid. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell.